But for us who are more on the creative side, we tend to be like, this is a great idea. I can't wait to do this. Everybody's going to love it.
That is true.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not everybody loves it.
Hey, I'm Lara, an artist, educator, and entrepreneur who's danced through life in Australia, London, and California. Now I'm an Aussie in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Juggling roles as an artist, ex-dancer, current actor, author, professional educator, and qualified life coach, I'm also a wife and mother of two. Join me on this podcast crafted for creative souls at every level, entrepreneurs, artists, dreamers, and hope-filled humans alike. I'm here to guide you towards a life of love, purpose, adventure, and boundless creativity. As a healthy, wealthy, and wise creative soul, I invite you to hit subscribe for weekly inspiration. Anticipate solo episodes, exclusive interviews with creative luminaries, and insightful discussions with my hottie hubby, Andrew, a specialist performance physical therapist, as we delve into the dynamics of relationships and more. Dive into a 360-degree view of making a creative life you'll love. Creativity often leads to entrepreneurial pathways and creative business pursuits. Many artists, whether performers or visual artists or authors or designers, struggle with promoting their art on social media and other places. So in this episode, we are going through the A to Z of marketing, online presence, AI, branding, habits, failure, time management, systems, and more with Jacqueline Green, the founder, CEO, and chief strategist of Behind the Design. Jacqueline's company empowers interior designers and other creative business owners by providing them with the essential tools needed to build a profitable and sustainable business. With her extensive background as a commercial interior designer, marketing expert, and former college instructor, Jacqueline has a unique perspective on creative entrepreneurs' challenges. Her mission is to bridge that gap between artistic talent and business skills, ensuring that creatives thrive and make a meaningful impact in their industries. Jacqueline's journey from Indianapolis to Highlands Ranch has been filled with laughter, a lot of Rottweiler-sized chaos, and we are thrilled to have her on the show today to share her insights and wisdom on creative entrepreneurship. Well, welcome, Jackie. Many arts and design colleges focus heavily on the craft, but often don't teach how to actually run a business. So what's your story around that area?
My first degree was in marketing, went to corporate marketing, worked in corporate marketing, and then I went out on my own as a marketing consultant and doing the creative work. And in doing that, I ended up burning out. And no one really taught me how to start a business, how to grow a business. It just wasn't there. So then I ended up going back to school because I was burned out, and I went to interior design school. And same thing, in interior design school, they teach you how to be an interior designer, but they really don't teach you how to actually build a business. And so what I realized after working for 3 different architecture firms is that I could actually add a lot of value in helping designers after they graduated or when they're getting to that point where they want to start a business, which is very much a path that many designers take, on how to actually run the business, how to grow it, how to build it so it's profitable, how to manage people and lead them, how to market these services. And so it kind of evolved. I always say my business evolved of, one, teaching how to do these things, but 2, also providing services to help them do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So would you say to a creative entrepreneur that says to you, what should I do? Where do I start? Like I'm right at the beginning. What would be your advice around the very beginning of a creative entrepreneur?
I think it's really important that we identify where we want to go. And it may not be where you end up, but just starting at that whole mindset of, okay, what do I really want out of this? And what is my passion here? And how does that relate to a business? And how I can build that out. So I think that is by far the first thing you have to decide. We talk a lot about this in building a profitable business, that your mindset is just has such an impact on your success.
Mm.
For instance, in the design community for years, there were a lot of designers who had been around for a while, but they didn't want to share their creative and their knowledge, their secret sauce. And that's such a scarcity mindset. And when we have a growth mindset, instead of thinking, okay, I'm not going to share this with my employees because my employee might run off and go start their own business. Instead, let's look at it in the sense of how much knowledge can I share, actually engage this employee into the business. And instead of them running off, they're a very loyal employee and they may eventually take over and purchase this business or become a partner in this business. So think of it more in that sense. And so our mindset is really important. So I really talk about that to begin the first part of that. And then I
Mm.
talk about, we go into what are the systems or processes to get there. But before we even do that, it's like, what is your ideal client? What are you going to offer them? What's important to them? What pain points do they have? And when you determine that, then you can determine what products and services that you can offer them to meet those needs. And
Mm.
that's so important to really understand, because but for us who are more on the creative side, we tend to be like, this is a great idea. I can't wait to do this. Everybody's going to love it.
That is true.
Yeah, unfortunately, not everybody loves it. And
Yeah.
then we get into the, I did it all wrong. You feel bad about it. And failures are good, don't get me wrong, but instead, let's figure out who really needs this product and go after them.
I love that. I've heard a lot about niche as well. And, in my own business, I've definitely started very, very niche and then came out and broadened a little bit. And like you say, like sometimes where you start, it kind of evolves, doesn't it? And changes.
Yes.
What do you say about niche though? Is it important? Is it not?
It is important, I believe, at least at the beginning when you're starting out. Go with what is the strongest area of your skill set and niche down. You can always expand out. But I was talking to someone the other day, and she's doing something similar to me, but to a different audience. And she had just, well, I'll help anybody. Well, when we do that, we don't really become experts and focused on a true industry and be able to maximize that. Now, there is a danger that if you niche too far down, that you're going to not have enough customers. So that's part of your analysis. But you can
Mm.
always expand. Like, we really started with interior designers. And like you said, we kind of expanded and started adding architects in there and started looking at other creative entrepreneurs, photographers, fashion designers, that sort of thing, and really kind of expanded, but we stayed within that creativity. And I think
Mm.
that it is really important to find your sweet spot, especially when you're first starting out, because it helps you really focus in.
Tell me too about you really emphasize in your work that networking and building a supportive community is important. What sort of strategies do you have about networking and the know, like, trust sort of factor?
I think networking is really important. And it's not just about building your business, it's about being around other, like for me, I go to a lot of women networking. I wanted to be around other women that had been where I was, or that were 10 steps ahead of me, so that I could learn. It was being in the room with other people that, maybe knew a little bit more than me, or had already gone over a few stumbling blocks that I could learn from. And so I think networking is just incredibly important. In the creative field, it's where you can find strategic partners. It's where you can expand your professional development. And many creatives work from home, and that can get really lonely. And so I think networking is one of the biggest things. And what's great about networking is when you start, getting to know people, they're going to sing your praises for you without even costing you a dime. And so I
Hmm.
think it's just a really important aspect of running a business from all kinds of different angles.
What's put you off, like when you've gone to a networking event? What do you find is a good way to connect with others versus a not good way of connecting with others? You must have a story there.
Oh yeah, I have plenty of stories. I'm an introvert, and it's very hard for me to walk into a space and go, "Hi, my name's Jackie." it's just not in my natural. And so I would sit in the car and my stomach would get so upset. I actually have literally driven away and not even gone in. And that's really not a good thing. And so it took about a few years to go. I'm like, I am going to do this. I'm going to start networking. I'm going to maximize this. I'm going to force myself to do it. When I forced myself to do it, when I say forced, I mean that's like just get out of the car. Get out
Yeah.
of the car and walk the
Yeah.
place. That was a big step. And, I would start doing it and I start doing it. And within 6 months, you know what happened? Was like pulling up, getting out of the car, running in and be like, hey. And it didn't even bother me. My stomach wasn't hurting anymore. And because I just kept doing it and forcing myself to do it. But what I found was you can, there's a couple different ideas. You can stand by the door when people walk in and capture them. But what happens a lot is they're looking around trying to figure out who they know and get situated. So a better way is to kind of move yourself into the room. I've heard that if there's a bar, you should stand by the bar. So as people get done grabbing their drinks, you capture them there.
Great.
If there's not a bar, maybe it's more in, but you capture them as they've already kind of put their own thought process around what is in this room. Who do I know? Who do I not know? Let me digest and process all this. And so that's a really important part. And then don't make it about, here's my business card, you know, refer me or give me business. Instead, think about how you might connect people. And so at first I used to think, oh, I can't buy their products. I don't need their products.
Mm.
Who do I know who might be able to? And so I look at it as a challenge of who can I connect? So it's not just me, but who can I connect? This person will be a good connection for this person and try to do an introduction. And that is a powerful thing when you start thinking, okay, instead of me, I'm going to help somebody else.
I really love that you say that because that selfishness is not attractive, is it, in a
No.
room at all? What would you say too around, once you've connected, do you think that having a website is still very, very important? And if so, what elements should it include? Because there's the argument of you just need social media now. You don't need a website versus you need a website. So what do you think around that?
I think your website is the foundation. I talk a lot about first you develop your brand and then your brand is your foundation as well as your website. Because what happens is the numbers, depending on the research project, are somewhere between 85 to 92%, where people will go look at your website before they purchase from you. And so you have to have the foundation of your website and all your social platforms come back to that foundation because
Mm.
there's an important key fact here that on social sites, you don't own your audience. They could change the algorithm. You could stop showing up. You could, all of a sudden lose everybody you've connected to. And so it's really important to use social, but bring them back into your own controlled environment. And that is your website. So that could be a landing page where you're offering something and you're grabbing their emails. Even if you're not ready to do email campaigns on a regular basis, you still want to start capturing that information so that you own that relationship. The social media giants don't own it. Does that?
Mm. I love that. I love that you shared that because that kind of puts like a stamp in that argument, and that the socials is really channeling them to the place that you own in your place online, and your website being that. And regarding social media, how should creatives find their audience and decide which platform of all of them? There's so many now to focus on. What's your advice around that area?
With somebody who isn't necessarily, if you're just getting started as social, find one platform that you're comfortable on. Now, I do recommend that you look at the platforms and say, okay, who is my target audience and where's my target audience at? So I know TikTok is really, really popular right now, but the majority of people who are on TikTok are under the age of like 25. Well, if I'm an interior designer, there are very, very few people under 25 who can afford my services. Let's just face that.
Yeah.
If I'm running a business and I'm selling to other businesses, that may not be my market either. And so I wouldn't focus necessarily on TikTok based on my own market.
Yeah.
Now, for designers and for the people that we really work with, you really want to stick with something that can show your creativity and show in picture and video. So I really recommend uh, identifying where your audience is, and then really focusing in on just one, if not two, platforms at first, and get your swing, get your strategy down, figure out what's working, what's not working. You can always expand. But
Mm.
I really like the idea. I loved LinkedIn when because I've been on it for so long and I sell B2B, and the people that are on there are professionals. They can afford my services. There were things related. And so we really focused on that. Now we're expanding and really getting into some of the other sites, but we stuck with that and really maximized it until we were ready. Because if you sit there and try to go to all the platforms, it is so overwhelming and
Hmm.
can really just weigh heavy on you. And so the key to social media is just consistency. And by taking on too much, it ends up impacting your ability to be consistent.
I love that you said consistency. I keep hearing again and again from creatives around social media. They just feel like I've heard things like, I can't, it makes me cringe, it's terrifying, I don't know what to post. What do you think around that as to not be self absorbed in terms of our content as a creative?
Thing about social is for so long it was all these beautiful pictures of beautiful things
Mm,
and people. And I think for many of us internalized it and we're thinking, well, I'm not attractive enough or I can't be perfect enough to be on there. What's happening is we're seeing a shift in social where we want to see the behind the scenes. So I tell my clients, because I often have my clients, well, I don't have a project finished, or we didn't take photographs of previous projects that were finished. No, show the behind the scenes, show the progress, show where it's at. Like for designers and architects, we can show what we think or what it's going to look like. And then while we're going through the process, take pictures, take videos, show the hardships and things. You don't have to
mm,
be perfect, because what's happening, social wants authenticity over that perfection. And I think when we start shifting our minds and saying, okay, I don't have to be perfect, I can just throw a camera up and, start videotaping and giving my words. When we stop
mm.
worrying about what other people think and just think about who I'm serving and how this information could help somebody, that really helps us develop our content and really share it out.
I love that. And when I started, I remember I went through this sort of mental, psychological, emotional shift from I'm just posting for whatever vanity reasons, for want of a better term, into no, I've got a business now. And
Yeah.
a lot of us do use our personal brand, our personal accounts for that as creatives. And that shift was actually difficult because that's where I found it the most difficult as I shifted from not business to business mindset. And then it got easier after a period of time. Have you found that as well? Like the more you do it, the less you worry about what everyone's going to think?
100%. And I have designers that come to me and I'm like, okay, we need to do some video. And they look at me like this. No, I don't
Oh.
wanna do it. I don't know what to record. I promise, as you start recording those, they get easier. Before you know it, you're just like, "Da, da, 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 da," and it just
Yeah.
becomes simple. Like anything else, you just kinda have to throw yourself in there and
Mm,
know that it's okay. And, yeah, there's some people out on social that'll say things that aren't always nice, but you
yeah.
can't worry about them. 'Em. They're just obviously unhappy people. That's
I
what I
know.
think. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're unhappy with your life."
It's so true. And the perspective thing's interesting because you write something from one perspective and then someone will comment from a completely different because that's their worldview or that's their filter or whatever. And so it's always very interesting. And at first I'd freak, but now I'm like, okay, they're just coming from a different place. They're in a place of burnout or they're in a place of scarcity or and so their point of view might be quite different. But yeah, it's an interesting space, social media, isn't it?
It really is, and, I'm older, so for me, I didn't grow up on social media. If social media, and I love your point about think of it as your business rather than your individual. I mean, yes, it's
Mm,
your personal brand, but
yeah.
when we step out of it and say, "I'm doing this for a business, I think of it, I relate it to the resume. I could I can help other people write their resume, no problem. When I went to go write my resume when I was younger, it's like, uh I don't know what I'm doing. It's
Yeah.
the craziest thing. And so when we move our mind out of it and say, okay, it's not just about me, it's about this entity, this business I am building,
Mm.
then it takes that emotional side away from it and it becomes easier. And if it truly is not your thing, then there are people out there that
Mm.
will you can pay and they will totally help you with creating your content. That's what my company does for a lot of designers is we help you create that content and tell you exactly what to shoot, tell you exactly this is what we're going to do with these things. And it's
Mm.
just kind of getting out of your own head sometimes.
That's so true. We get so stuck in our head. And I think usually when that happens, it's because we're doing the self absorbed, it's about me. When if it's not about you, like you said, you shift and make it about your audience. It doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
becomes quite simple, doesn't it? Can you
Yes.
tell me too, like the big topic and the big change that we've really seen this year is AI. So tell me about artificial intelligence and how is it helping or not helping creative industries? And do you use it and how would you use it?
And so we use it quite a bit. We use it as our starting point. And so let me give you an example of that. Talking about not knowing what to create as far as your content for social. I love writing. So we write lots of blogs and share lots of content out there. But what we did was we took those blogs and we put them into AI and we said, AI, and your prompts are really important. This is my audience. I wrote this blog and now I want to create some reels around this. And when we took 1 month of or we do 2 blog posts per week. When we took those 8 blog posts, we got 72 ideas for reels. When we took 4 months, we got 262 or something ideas to create these reels. That can put us, now we're not going to use all those, but it gave me the starting point because sometimes when you're staring at a
Hmm.
blank canvas, you're like, what am I going to do? But when you have something that just kind of sets you starting in the right direction, all of a sudden you can move on it and you can make it your own. Now, with that, I would not rely on AI 100%. You have to make it your own. You have to add your stories.
Mm.
You have to be authentic and you have to check it and make sure it's correct because not everything that comes out is correct.
Mm.
But once you do that, it can help you from that creative when you were kind of stuck. Okay, what do I create? Yeah, to me, that is huge. And that really helps get us moving in the right direction. Or if there's just, I have it in my head, I'm like, how do I want to say this? And I write it down and then I can ask AI, can you improve this for me? And sometimes that's just the little thing I need to get going on it.
Yeah, that's so good because I think that blank page is known for creatives to be where you feel blocked or stuck. But having someone to brainstorm with, particularly like you said, because a lot of us do work alone, whether it's the dancer in the studio or it's the actor doing their self-tape or it's the singer trying to write in, the basement of their house to annoy everybody or whatever craft it is, there is just so much help in being able to brainstorm creatively with someone else. And
Exactly.
around the marketing thing, a lot of us, wanting to sell something, whether it's our songs or it's our, we're wanting to get work. How do we actually do that without being salesy? What would you say is your main thought around not being salesy?
I think there's a level when we look at salesy, what does that look like? Instead of thinking, am I being salesy? Are we thinking of what problem we're solving? And so to do that, instead of saying, buy my product, instead it's asking a lot of questions from your prospect and identifying how you can help. So instead of it being about you, it's about them. So by the time you get to the sales portion of it, you've already kind of walked them through their own words what their problem is and the solution that they need.
It's
So then when
lovely.
you
Yeah.
go, oh, I can help you with that, it becomes so much easier. It's not a hard sale anymore. You've just built a relationship with them.
That's so true. I still see so many posts, particularly on LinkedIn, that I'm so proud to say that I got this award, or I'm so proud to say, and that's fine. But I kind of think, oh, is there another way to write that achievement so that it actually encourages those who are reading it. And that's a really interesting space, isn't it? The way that we actually
Yeah, and
express ourselves.
for so long too, we this is one of the challenges social media is, especially most of my clients are women, so I talk about women a lot, and I'm a woman, so I know this. But we were taught not to be self-promotional. We were taught not to brag about ourselves, that you're being that it was impolite. And so when we get on social, we think, well, I can't do that. I can't just brag about myself. But instead, you can actually twist and turn that around and say, and talk about how you helped somebody else's problem and solve that problem.
Mm.
There's, obviously a fine line, but in some regards, if you want to be successful in business, we kind of have to walk away from that whole idea of, I don't want to be self promoting
Yeah.
because you want to make money. Because at the end of the day, if you're not making money doing your craft, then you really don't have a business. And so we have to kind of shift in the way we do that. And there's a lot of good ideas and ways that you can do this, but making it about your client and the problem you solve for them is a better way of doing it than making it about you.
It's so true. And I'm much more likely to read a content that sort of starts with, it took me 3 years to get to here and it was so hard. And sometimes I thought I was going to give up, but today I got an award. And then you're like, yes, rather than you idiot, I don't care. I'm still hurting. That kind of like roundabout that we go on mentally.
And that's such
There's
a
there's
good
clever ways, isn't there?
Yeah, that
Mm.
is such a good point because your story is unique to you. And what interesting, I also used to suffer from this is, well, I don't have any stories. We all have stories. You just
We
have to
do.
find
Yeah.
out what those stories are. But people want to hear that. They want to hear the authenticity of your story. And you might not think it's a big deal because you survived it, but to someone else at that very moment of you sharing that story,
Mm.
that might be exactly what that one person needs to hear at that very moment to help them.
That's true. And you can tell it over and over again, can't you? Your story in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be one and done, does it,
No.
with that sort of content? Tell me too, like we know that businesses have branding. We know that businesses it's important. What do you think though about the actual individual creative, the artist, the personal branding side? I mean, is it really important for solopreneurs, how do you say it, creative entrepreneurs on their own? Is that important to you?
It is important. Everyone has a personal brand. It doesn't matter if you're an employee at W-2 or if you're working on your own as a solopreneur. Branding isn't about the logos or colors. I mean, that supports it, but it's really the perception that people have about you. So, what is that perceived value that they offer? And whether you're working for somebody else or working for yourself, you're giving them that view of you, and that is what your brand is. So, I think that sometimes as solopreneurs, we get kind of st- stuck in that place. Well, I have my personal brand and then I have my company brand. And it really looks at if you're a solopreneur and you're an artist and you plan on just always being an artist, like you paint, you love to paint, this is what your business is going to be. Yeah, you turned it into a business, but your brand, your personal brand, that is what you sell on. Versus
Mm.
someone like me where, yeah, I started out as a solopreneur, but now I'm hiring people and growing a business. That is where the brand, the business brand comes in. So it really comes down to where are you at this moment and where are you going? And it's okay to start with your personal brand and then all of a sudden expand. So if you're a songwriter, that's a good
Mm.
example where you're writing songs and then all of a sudden you start getting these opportunities and you start hiring other songwriters and you build a business out of that. Then you just work on transitioning that. You still have your personal brand, but you also build a business brand.
I love that. That makes it a lot clearer because I think we often think brandings as colors and logos and things like
Mhm.
that. But what people are actually thinking of you and saying about you and what you offer is a way better way of
Yeah.
explaining personal brand. Thank you for that. Tell me too, like a lot of us are working very hard, particularly when we start. And I know in the past, before you started this journey, you mentioned burnout, but burnout's a real issue, for creatives in general, because we're constantly outputting, and you get to a point sometimes where I call it the effort reward balance isn't always present because of the saturated industries that a lot of us are in. How do you really manage the time of avoiding, your energy and avoiding that burnout and still be productive?
For me, it's really focusing on the things that matter and being okay with saying no. And so when I was in my
Mm.
marketing consulting business, I would just say yes to everything, even things that weren't in my zone of genius. I thought of it in money terms. Yes, this is money. I had to support my family. I need to do this. But instead of kind of, okay, what is the true value I offer? And saying no to those people who don't fall within your ideal client and saying no to projects that are outside your realm. So what I realized was I would say yes to something, not know how to do it, spend all kinds of time trying to figure out how to do it. And then it dawned on me years later, I'm like, I could have hired somebody for a fraction of the hours I spent to do that one thing. I didn't need to know exactly how to do it. I just need to get it done. And so when
Mm.
we ask for help, we also are able to complete more. And so really staying in the things that you love, outsource the other things. I hate
Mm.
bookkeeping, and I know most creatives do. Bookkeeping is pulling my nails off one by one with pliers. That's how bad it is. I can hire somebody who loves bookkeeping. I don't understand it, but they can do it, and they do it so much better than I do, and it takes the stress off of me. It's okay to do that. And so I think that was the other part of it, is saying no to things that are not in my zone, or finding people who can help me. I did a horrible job of asking for help. And so I would take it all on. I was
Mm.
working weekends, nights, all the time, and it just became too much.
Yeah. And that's where the burnout comes, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
and then I
just,
no longer loved that creative part and that
mm,
job, that company I was building. I all of a sudden hated marketing, and I had
mm,
loved it for so long, and I still
mm.
love it now, but I had to get a break from that, and it took me a lot of growing to realize, yeah, you burned yourself out, silly.
Yeah, that's so true, because we do have to wear a lot of hats as creatives. We kind of start with our craft or whatever that is, our medium, and then it ends up being, oh my gosh, now I'm supposed to be a marketing expert and an accountant, and I'm meant to promote myself online, and it just becomes a lot, doesn't it? Like there's so
Mhm.
many
It really
things.
does, and it comes overwhelming, and then you end up not loving what you actually wanted to do,
That's
and that's
true.
yeah, that's not a good thing either.
Mm. Tell me too around failure, particularly in creative business, because it's often part of the journey, isn't it? And where we learn. How do we use failure as a stepping stone rather than a way to back out and never go back there?
That's failure is one of those things that you have to understand that is good for you. It doesn't feel good at the time, but I am amazed and looking at some of my failures that just absolutely wrenched my heart at the time. I look back at it and so glad that that happened, because there's something else on the other side. You learn something, you build, you become stronger. And so when you fail, it's not, oh, I failed, let me go crawl into bed. I mean, it's okay if you want to do that for a day, but you get
Mm,
back up and you go, okay, what did I learn from this and how can I avoid this? And those things make you stronger. It makes you a better leader. It makes you a better business owner. It actually makes you a strong creative, and
mm,
understanding that. And for so long, I know I beat myself up over failures until I realized, no, those failures were there for me to learn
yeah.
something and to grow from.
That's true. And the sting does disappear in time, doesn't it, of
Yes.
those things?
Yeah.
Even just say
At the
that for the
time it
person who
stings,
just
but
got rejected. Or, yeah,
yeah,
it does
at the
sting. It
time
does.
it totally stings, and it's okay.
It's
You
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's like, okay, that candy bar looks really good right now. A cup of ice cream will make this all better.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Tell me too, just some tips around time management, and particularly because we are talking about burnout a second ago. How do we manage our time as creatives? Because it can be just, I'm going to work nonstop
Yes,
because
it
I'm a
can.
creative, and yeah, it's just me.
I really encourage people to one, set your priorities for the week, set your priorities for the day. What are the things you have to get done? Absolutely have to get done. And then batch your time out. And so if there's something, social media is a great example. If you need to do social posts and ugh, I just don't in the mood, or we put it off and put it off till we're not feeling creative. Instead, block out your time, a 4 hour window, one day a month, one day every week, whatever it is, how many posts you want, and just, create and identify what you want to do and plan out your entire month of content. That makes it a
Mm.
lot easier. And then you can also schedule that using software like later.com, and you get
Mm.
it off your plate. But it's really staying focused on the one thing you have to get done. And in understanding that, there's just some things that are just going to have to go by the wayside while you're getting that thing done.
That's true. I like that because often that creative mind, we say, oh, we're this side, we're not good. But actually, to be a creative does take the right and left brain
It really
because one is
does.
that processes and systems. And around that, tell me about habits. Do you think that creatives actually need to be good with these sorts of habits?
We all have habits, and whether good or bad. You can, if you sit there and really analyze your day and mark what you're doing, we all have habits. I was talking to a designer, the other day at a networking event, and she was saying how hard it was for her to get to work in the morning, that she was always 2 hours late and she wouldn't get in till 10. I'm like, instead of thinking, oh, I'm late, let's look at what you're doing in your morning routine and make it okay. So for me, my morning routine is usually a couple of hours. Now, mine starts early, usually around 6, but I really enjoy having a cup of coffee. I'll read through the news a little bit, and then I read a book. I like I'll read a business book, 15, 20 minutes. But I built that into my morning so that it's part of my relaxation. It's part of identifying. During that time, I'll do my gratitudes for the day. I'll write down what I want to get accomplished, my priorities for the day. I take that
Mm.
time to really help with my own energy and mindset versus thinking, oh, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late. No, you need to build out your day like that for those habits and identify what habits are working and what aren't working. Of course, a great book on this is Atomic Habits, which I think most people have read that I've come across. But he really talks about small little changes, and he talks about also stacking. So for me, while the coffee's brewing, let's feed the dogs. If we
Mm.
still have time, let's get the dishwasher unloaded from the night before. Those are easy things that I can add on while I'm waiting for something else.
I think that's such a great point because we need to have systems in place, don't we, and build those
100%.
structures in order to be, efficient. And is there any thoughts around systems that are working for the creative mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Your systems are really important, and they become really important when you start to grow your business. So if you're hiring people, those systems are critical
Mm.
for to ensure that every client gets treated and experiences the same great experience with you. And so to think a lot of people are like, I don't want to do systems and processes, but we are doing it whether we know it or not. And as creatives, and to prevent that work overload, when we have systems and really put those into place, then it also helps us maximize the time we have to work. And
Mm.
so that when at the end of the day, when it really is time to stop and walk away from whatever creative, your computer, the canvas, whatever it is, you can feel good about going, okay, I got a lot done today. Now it's time for me to have my me time, my family time, do something outside of this to really rebuild and refurbish myself. And so I
Mm.
think that those systems can really help you identify where you can be more efficient and where you can add a little bit more freeing time. And that goes back to the whole time management as well. If you have
Mm.
limited hours, you need to maximize those hours to work, and systems and processes help you with that.
Yeah, I'm so big on systems and processes, and I do notice in myself that I have that more mental clarity in the morning, some at night,
Yeah.
and that's when I do the big stuff that I know that I will not. Like if I'm writing something, I'd rather do it when my brain is sharp. Are you similar to that?
That is such a good point, and I meant to mention earlier is figure out when you are the strongest sharpness. Some
Mm.
of us, it's the morning, some of us, it's the evening, and it changes throughout your life. When I was younger, I could get a lot done in the afternoon when people would leave the office, and I would just work away, and I was on a roll. Now, it's like I've actually shifted and I am much more productive and creative in the morning. My brain is free flowing. It can really think of some creative ideas. In the afternoon, I put tasks in the afternoon that don't require a lot of creativity, more administrative styles of things
Mm.
that I can do. And so I think that's
Mm.
a really important part is figuring out where you are most optimal and utilize that time efficiently.
That's so important, isn't it, for any creative mind, really, because we have such a strong flip between those different brain functions.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
some people just stay in one side the entire
Mhm.
day. It's not helpful, unless your job needs that, of course. All right, so we're running at home here, but I would love for you to share how people can find you, what resources you offer that might be beneficial to my audience.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm at behindthedesignco.com, and that's my handle on all the social channels as well, Behind the Design Co. And we have a lot. We offer classes, we offer marketing services, and we also offer a lot of free resources just to help you get started.
That's so helpful. And I thank you so much for your time today. It's been such a lovely conversation.
I just think this has actually been a wonderful opportunity, and thank you so much.
Thank you. It's so lovely to connect. Phew, today's masterclass is done. I love reaching back and saying, I've done this, and helping you learn the easy way. If you want more, head to laurabiancapilcher.com for show notes, links, freebies, my blog, coaching and courses, and you can also head to my socials, Laura Bianca Pilcher on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That would mean the world to me. And of course, keep on living the healthy, wealthy, wise artist living towards your dream life. Bye, friends. P.S. Shout out to my hottie hubby, Andrew Pilcher, who does all the editing on this podcast.